Tobago West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, thank you for this opportunity to make a contribution to this most important debate on the report which is before us. Before I jump into my contribution, I want to touch on a couple of the comments that...
Kate, which time provision you are?
Chair, and thank you for the reminder. I'll be taking 60 minutes. Madam Chair, before I jump into my contribution, I want to salute some of the people who would have been a part of this recent journey that would have brought us to this point. I must first and foremost pay tribute to all who have gone before me. Former President and Member of Parliament for Tobago East, who would have moved the motion in 1977, Mr. Arthur Napoleon Robinson, Raymond Robinson, Winston Murray, and all those from the past who would have done the work to get us to this point. But most recently, I want to commend and even salute Ashwood Jack. He was the member from the Tobago Organization of the People, or I shouldn't say the TOP, sorry. He would have been the member of the DAC in the opposition that brought this motion in 2006 for the Tobago House of Assembly to consider doing consultations for internal self-government. And at that point in time, he was in opposition. And Mr. Orville London, in his capacity as Chief Secretary and the Tobago House of Assembly, PNM, we adopted the motion and moved with it full speed. It was an opposition motion, but we knew that this was in the best interest of Tobago and Tobagonians. And we adopted unanimously that motion and ran full speed ahead with it. So it was since 2006. Then we saw the establishment of the John Prince Committee in 2007, which did its first set of consultations that brought us to this point. And the result of those consultations that were submitted in September of 2011 were given to the Kamala Prasad Bisesa, former Prime Minister, in 2011, and they were disregarded when the UNC was considering internal self-government from Tobago. They created their own green paper. They did not consult anybody. They did not consult the people of Tobago, so it is rather interesting to see them come to Parliament today harping on consultation when they had the opportunity to bring a bill before this House, Madam Speaker. They did not consult anyone. And to add insult to injury, they brought that bill on 5 days before the Tobago House of Assembly election as a political football. They played Tobagonians for fools and brought that legislation to the House 5 days before election day. But the people of Trinidad and Tobago stood it down. And then the people of Tobago made their way to the polls the following Monday, January 21st, and voted resoundingly for the People's National Movement. They didn't get one seat. But, Madam Speaker, I want to also recognize Mr. Kelvin Charles, who would have taken up the baton over after Mr. Orville London, and of course Mr. Ho-Choi Charles, who after the Tobagonians were cast aside and ignored by the UNC, Mr. Orville London and Mr. Ho-Choi Charles decided to come together and do deeper, wider consultations across Tobago to speak to the cabinet, to speak to Trinidad and Tobago with one voice. So I must salute them. Before I dive into my contribution, Madam Chair, Madam Speaker, I want to touch on some of the issues raised by those opposite. And Madam Speaker, I have been in this House 11 years now, and this today is the most, I was most surprised today, because I cannot believe those members who presented were actually on the Joint Select Committee, because half of what they presented today is a big sham. It is bogus, it is untrue, it is disingenuous, it is dishonest. I have never seen, never ever seen in my 11 years in government or in opposition so many efforts to stray from the truth and to be disingenuous with information, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as it relates to that letter, I want to start with that letter from MP Ramberley. MP Ramberley wrote that letter on March 30th. It was dated March 30th, where he was asking for more consultation, asking that we go to Tobago for consultation. But Madam Speaker, in our meeting of March 25th, we as a committee had already decided to come to Tobago for consultations. So for MP Ramberley to write a letter dated March 30th, asking the committee to go to consultation, we were asking, what are you talking about? This decision was already taken at the last committee meeting. It is in the minutes. But then you could see them trying to build a case like they are trying to fight for Tobagonians and so on. When in truth and in fact, we as a committee had already decided. And a matter of fact, if you look at the last couple lines of the minutes of that day, we said when we come back on our April 1st meeting, we are going to say exactly what days we are going to go and so on. But the decision was already taken for us to go. So on April 1st, when that letter was being read into the minutes of the meeting, and the members asked, what do you mean, for us to go right now? Because we have already made that decision to go. So why are you writing a letter asking us to go? So for MP Ramberley and MP Rudy Ndarsing to come here today and to tell these untruths, Madam Speaker, I'm most disappointed. Madam Speaker, I want to touch on some more of the issues. This matter of internal self-government and the work that we have done over these years have nothing to do with this 6-6 deadlock in Tobago. We were well on our way to delivering this legislation. A matter of fact, I remember running for election last August and we were being pressured, saying, why haven't you brought the bill yet? So when we came back as the government, it was our business to put this first, and we got down to doing the work of the committee. I hear Member Ndarsing trying to tell Tobagonians that PNM has done nothing for them. Tobagonians know better. If the UNC could look around and point to us in Tobago, any of its developments in the time that it spent in leadership, in 2010 to 2015, they did nothing, and I like to say precious nothing, Madam Speaker, but Tobagonians could actually point to the development and access to opportunities under the People's National Movement. Madam Speaker, they are raising today draft bills of 1995. There are many days those members sat on the committee and said nothing. And when you asked for their opinion, they said, we are not members of the government. Your business is policy. We don't have to say anything. And these were their actual contributions, Madam Speaker. So to hear them stand here today and speak to consultation and their contribution on the committee, no, Madam Speaker, that did not take place. Many days, if you check the record and you do a search for Ramberley, and look at how many days he asked to be absent or to leave early, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, and the days that they were present, they said nothing. So, Madam Speaker, I'm really taken aback by their contribution here today. Now, Madam Speaker, this matter of pension for the Vice President and so on, we were looking at the legislation, and a matter of fact, we didn't draft the legislation alone. And oftentimes, those who were helping us draft were identifying areas that needed work. As we look at one thing to put the provisions for the members for their remuneration for the Tobago House of Assembly, we said, hey, there is something that's missing as it relates to the Senate. Should we put it here right now? And we all as a committee then decided that no, it should not go there. It wasn't about the UNC standing up and fighting for anything. We as a committee took that decision that it doesn't belong there, and we are going to do the government should do legislation to treat with that issue. Madam Speaker, Member Elaine Darrison spoke about this glowing relationship between the UNC and the DAC in Tobago, like it was such a beautiful thing. I remember being fresh out of school in 1998, 1999, and the UNC was treating Tobago so badly that the chief secretary of that day did not have money to pay public servants. You were going to the bank to cash your salary check and couldn't get funds. And the students who were abroad in America going to school sent out there by the Tobago House of Assembly had to come back home, Madam Speaker, because the UNC was starving Tobago for funds, Madam Speaker. So I don't know what he's talking about. They love Tobago so much, Madam Speaker, that and was trying to help us establish this internal self-government for the Tobago House of Assembly, that they set up a parallel system by having a Ministry of Tobago Development in Tobago, undermining the Tobago House of Assembly. We as Tobagonians have not forgotten, so don't think that you can come here and try to feed us UNC. We are not tolerating that. Madam Speaker, they promised us so many things during their 5 years, that 2010 to 2015 period. Oh, integrated university. Today, Madam Speaker, as the old people in Tobago say, krenene. Integrity University, nothing. Madam Speaker, they promised us police station for Shervan and Roxborough. Krenene, Madam Speaker, nothing. Police station, nothing. Fire station, nothing. Airport refurbishment, nothing. They cordoned off Crown Point Airport and gave us the impression that work was being done there, and it was nothing, nothing, nothing. Sea bridge, ferries for the sea bridge, nothing, Madam Speaker. Nothing, nothing, nothing. And today, in their usual fashion, they came here prepared to derail this process, to ensure that Tobago walks away with nothing. So, Madam Speaker, understand why I have been just really shocked sitting here looking and listening to the contribution of those opposite. I remember when we were preparing to go out for consultations, and we as a committee sat and decided that we are going to go to the radio stations, go to the media, so that we can get the message out there. They themselves recommended Radio Jagriti and Radio Ashvani or something like that, Madam Speaker. And then when it was time to offer themselves to go on the radio station, they did not show. Not one of them volunteered themselves to go out there and to get people to participate in the consultations, Madam Speaker. So this is really, really surprising for me, Madam Speaker. So I want to speak to the 2 weeks and giving the members of the Tobago House of Assembly, the political leaders, the opportunity to give feedback. Madam Speaker, we invited those members to a meeting, and they came on June 4th. And at the meeting, we explained to them the changes that were made coming out of the consultations of April 30th and May 1st. Madam Speaker, they asked if they can have some time to give feedback. Some asked for 2 weeks, Madam Speaker. And the member for Aruka Maloney, who was leading the committee, said, you can submit your submissions up to when we are on the parliamentary floor, because those changes can be made up to the third reading, Madam Speaker. So to sit here and to give the impression that we told people no, they couldn't submit their comments, that is not true. A matter of fact, so that was June 4th. 2 weeks after June 4th is June 18th. We did not receive comments from any of them, Madam Speaker. When we arrived here today at 1 p.m., 24 days later from June 4th, there were no comments. Madam Speaker, it's only at 1:27 that I think Ms. Julia King, who's affiliated with Mr. Ho-Choi Charles, submitted these remarks, these amendments, 3 minutes before the Parliament. Well, we usually start at 1:30, but at 1:27, after the sitting started, they submitted these comments. And just like all the other comments submitted by everybody who would have contributed, Madam Speaker, they are going to be considered. Every single comment, if it's one thing we can say about this process, every single comment, every single submission was considered, received due attention and deliberation by the members of the committee. So, Madam Speaker, as much as they make these general comments about how bad the situation and the legislation is, they have not pointed to one clause that is retrograde or puts us in a position worse than Act 40 of 1996. I want to move to the comment made by, I think this is Member Ramberley, who spoke to Shirley Cook from the Tobago Civil Net, saying that the bills, that they're not in favor of the bill, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I had a virtual town hall meeting last week, Tuesday, and Ms. Cook herself was at the town hall meeting. And she is one of the people who is out there saying, okay, the bills need more work and encouraging people to reject, Madam Speaker. And when I asked her, have you read the report or the bills? No. Her response was no. And then she raised an issue that she needed some clarification. I said, do you want me to explain, or let me take you to it? And she said no, she didn't want to know. So you're out there hyping up people and encouraging them to reject the bill when you yourself, head of the Civil Net Society or group or whatever you call it, have not yourself read the bill. And that was as of last week, Tuesday, Madam Speaker. I certainly hope that she has read the bill since, Madam Speaker, so that she could inform and educate the people who are depending on her for information. And that is one of the problems, Madam Speaker. And that is why I think that much of the feedback is anecdotal, Madam Speaker, because many of the people out there harping, reject the bills, this is retrograde, this is not good for you, have not read the bills, have not read the report. All the legal opinions, all the advice from the experts are right there, and they refuse to go read it. They don't want to know because they want to continue to miseducate Tobagonians and miseducate people about this matter, Madam Speaker, and that is unfortunate. I am happy that we were able to do some public consultations, virtual town hall meetings, and try to enlighten Tobagonians about what is happening. And the more Tobagonians become more aware, educated and enlightened about what is really in these bills, Madam Speaker, they are opening up and they are accepting and they are asking, I wonder why my fellow Tobagonians are allowing the UNC and their lackeys to finesse them with all this foolishness, Madam Speaker, fooling us, the people of Tobago, Madam Speaker, to try to accept the UNC once again. That would not happen. Whether you come straight or you come through the PDP, that will not happen. So, Madam Speaker, for us, this is not about winning any election. This is about providing to the people of Tobago the best piece of legislation based on the consultations, and what was sent to us based on what the remit of the committee was, Madam Speaker. At the end of the day, the people of Tobago are going to consider the issues and they are going to vote for who they want to vote for. We are not stupid people and we are not easily led astray, Madam Speaker. And we know who have been contributing to our development and who have not. And we know what direction we want to go, each and every one of us, and we are going to vote accordingly when that time arises. We as the PNM, we have been in government in the Tobago House of Assembly. We have been in opposition. You would have heard members opposite spoke about the time when there was just one PNM member. And Madam Speaker, how the people of Tobago assess us, that is up to them. But we continue to give the very best of ourselves and the very best of our leaders, Madam Speaker, and that is what the PNM is about today, that is what it was about yesterday, and that is what it would always be, Madam Speaker. So, it's interesting that at this 11th hour, at this point in time, you have people like in the PDP saying, no, we're calling for unified efforts and we need to now speak to Trinidad with one voice. In 2015, the PDP ran elections in Tobago and did not make a submission. In 2017, when they were invited to join the forum, they did not make a submission. All the way to 2018, Mr. Farley Augustine was a part of those consultations in Tobago, and neither the PDP, they did not make a submission up to when we faced the Tobago public in April 2021 this year. They did not make a submission, Madam Speaker. So to write a letter on June 4th or June 9th, now calling to be a part, and you have a concern, that is really interesting, because all the times in the past when you were offered to make a submission, you did not take that opportunity to make a submission. I want to touch on this offering of Justice Lockie's advice, Madam Speaker, as describing the bill as hodgepodge, being part secession, part federalism, and part promoting the unitary state. That was based on the comments on the bill of 2016 that was submitted to the Parliament, and we know that to be the internal self-government bills of 2018, because that is when the Joint Select Committee started. And Justice Lockie at that point in time was presenting comments on the original bill that was before us in 2018. So to bring that information for us at this time, Madam Speaker, that is quite disingenuous. And Madam Speaker, I want to raise that what Justice Lockie raised is very similar to what the United Nations would have said to us about what we got from Tobago. What we got from Tobago was a document containing the dreams and aspirations of the people of Tobago. And I could remember clearly the United Nations representative saying to us, in this document, you're speaking about internal self-government and you're saying you want to preserve the unitary state. But there are many areas of this document that you have presented to us that speak to secession or speak to federalism. What is it that you really want to do? So, Madam Speaker, I know that the member knows better, and he should take the opportunity to showcase and to circulate the right information. So, let's touch finally, because they continue to harp on my comments of April 30th, 2021, Madam Speaker, and they are so slick with twisting information, Madam Speaker. They give the impression, like I said, that there wasn't enough consultation, and I am in support of what they said, Madam Speaker. If there is anything that received widespread consultation in this country, in the history of this country, is internal self-government for Tobago. And Madam Speaker, rather than taking us a part of my comment, I want to read my full comment, because my comment was on April 30th, and I was speaking after Farley Augustine had spoken, and this was based on the matter of the miles and whether or not and why it wasn't being placed in the bills. At that point in time, it was not in the bills, and he had raised a problem with it, and I had raised a problem with it, saying, if we had had 6 miles for all this time, how could you now tell us it can't be placed anywhere? And the Attorney General kept saying, well, this is based on the advice that he had gotten from the legal luminaries and the experts. And I said, well, if you've gotten that advice, this is something that is really important to us. You have to share that advice and educate us as to why this thing cannot work. So, Madam Speaker, I want to read my full comment. I say, yes, I have been wanting to make a point. Madam Chair, like Mr. Augustine said, any Tobagonian from any side of the divide is very passionate about this issue as it relates to miles and boundaries and so on. I think it takes nothing from us to share the advice that we were given and to ventilate this matter a little more. If not here, at some other time, maybe tomorrow, we could come prepared to explore the matter, because I know that both the Tobago House of Assembly, in sending its position to us, would have gotten legal advice also. As the Attorney General as the Attorney General has just indicated, the legal advice that was available to us here at the Joint Select Committee, I think that Tobagonians would feel unsettled in moving forward if they are not able to fully capture and understand all that is before us. So I really think that this is a matter that needs to be ventilated, or the information needs to be shared. Also, because this is near and dear to the heart of Tobagonians. I know today is not my time to talk, but I just felt the need to make that interjection there. So, Madam Speaker, whilst they took half of the comment to try to say I had ascribed my comment to, I had used that comment to say we need more consultation. I was speaking specifically to this area, to this situation relating to Miles on April 30th, saying if we are coming back to these consultations on May 1st, let's bring the explanation and share the information. And since then, Madam Speaker, we had a major turning point on that Joint Select Committee because we had been going back and forth day after day on that issue. And QC Delano Bat from St. Kitts Nevis was brought to the committee on May 28th, Madam Speaker, and he and Miss Ida Eversley spent a lot of time with us explaining to us the legal parameters and how we can work this into the legislation. They continue to advise us not to put it in the Constitution, but we can put the 11 miles in the Tobago Island government bill, and that we did. So that has been resolved, Madam Speaker. The matter of miles is back in the bill, and we have moved from 6 miles to 11 miles. So I ask the opposition, do not try to take my words as it relates to one matter and ascribe it to another matter for your political expediency and your personal gains. I would not tolerate it. So, Madam Speaker, allow me to go to my contribution now. Further into my contribution, this matter of the right to self-determination, all peoples from all over the world want that right. By virtue of that right, we feel they freely determine their political status and freely pursue their economic, social, and cultural development. The member from Aruka Maloney would have stated the same earlier. It is a fundamental tenet of international law. Self-determination has supported the breaking up of nations, like we know for the former Yugoslavia, and more importantly, the coming together of nations, as in the reunification of Germany. Implementing the right to self-determination has always been complicated, as it involves a careful balancing of fundamental human rights and states' interests, plus a perceived global interest in maintaining territorial integrity and sovereignty. Madam Speaker, history would show us that conversations, deliberations, discussions about self-government and self-determination or more autonomy, it's usually more difficult when we are trying to maintain the unitary state, when we are talking about that right to self-determination and trying to maintain the unitary state. It's easier when you're looking at getting full autonomy and going off and having your own independence. It's more difficult when we are trying to preserve the unitary state, because we must factor in the future relationship between the two parties. And they have to be, if not totally satisfied, but reasonably comfortable with the arrangements and the future of their relationship. Madam Speaker, when you look at autonomy journeys throughout the world, Madam Speaker, it's usually complex, it's usually very long, it's usually very arduous, Madam Speaker, and it stretches across decades and generations. No one country got internal self-government or full autonomy in one clean swoop or one large stride. It's always staged. It's always step by step, Madam Speaker. When we look at New Zealand, Madam Speaker, their journeys from 1840 all the way to 2003, and they still hope for more autonomy, Madam Speaker. You look at Northern Ireland, a very similar situation, but they have several cases of civil wars involved in their autonomy journey. Madam Speaker, we all like to speak about Scotland. It is one of the most powerful devolved parliaments in the world. And they got their powers step by step over the years, from the establishment of the Scottish Parliament by the Scotland Act in 1998, later on adding planning responsibilities in 2008, transferring financial powers in 2012, and more devolution in 2016. And even today, as we speak, they are talking about further devolution, and some are even speaking about Scottish independence. But, Madam Speaker, one thing I admire about Scotland is that a distinguishing feature of the Scottish government is its ability to develop into and remain an economic powerhouse and a dynamic force among the UK nations, Madam Speaker, with a GDP lower than England, but a GDP and economic performance that outshines Wales and Northern Ireland. So it's not just an emotional matter, it's one of economic stability and strength. Madam Speaker, our situation in Trinidad and Tobago as it relates to attaining internal self-government and making small strides step by step, it's very similar, Madam Speaker, from the 1977 motion of then member of Tobago East, Mr. Robinson, all the way to Act 30 of 1980, which simply established the Tobago House of Assembly and granted minimal powers. And then we made another big step in 1986 by having the Tobago Executive Council, having the Tobago House of Assembly responsible for matters under the fifth schedule, Madam Speaker. And we made our steps over the years, bit by bit, Madam Speaker. The principal ideals, Madam Speaker, that Robinson had in 1977 are still alive and well today. They did not change. Any step along the way, they did not change. They are the same principles that were on the table in 1980 and also in 1996. The same ideals we talk about today, Madam Speaker, from the ability to borrow, managing our own business, Madam Speaker, still alive and well today. So, but Robinson was ever conscious that of the reality and the environment, the dynamics of the environment around him, Madam Speaker, and he recognized that because the journey to the final destination is a long and arduous one, any gains likely to be made along the way should not be renounced, relinquished, or cast aside. So, Madam Speaker, when he got the opportunity to make a stride in 1980, he did, and then again in 1996. At no point in time did he say, this is too little for me, and not taking it. Madam Speaker, we wanted lawmaking power in 1996. We were not able to accomplish that, but we went ahead and we took it. We wanted the ability to borrow. We were not able to accomplish that. We went ahead and we took it. We wanted the removal of cabinet dominance in 1996, Madam Speaker. And you heard the member opposite mention a comment from Mrs. Deborah Moore McGuinness. At that point in time, she was the Tobago senator on the UNC side, because remember, DSC and Tobago and the UNC, they were in a little marriage. And Madam Speaker, it was at the committee stage when the UNC refused to remove cabinet dominance, Madam Speaker, that led to her resigning her position and then running independently in Tobago under a party called the PEP. Madam Speaker, I supported her that year. She was a member for my area, Bethel, Mount Irving. I was only 14 years old. I couldn't vote, but I supported her because I admired her strength and her courage to stand up for what she believed was right. But Madam Speaker, even with that happening in the background, Robinson and his followers stayed the course. They did not walk away. They did not get the whole hog, but they accepted the gains that were made 1980, 1996. You see, Madam Speaker, I must emphasize that at every juncture of this journey, the reality was and still is that if the process were to fail, Tobago would be stuck for an indeterminate period at the stage which it was before Madam Speaker. So even Robinson, the grandfather of the movement, who introduced this philosophy to us, Madam Speaker, he himself was Prime Minister in 1986 with a 33 win, which gives him constitutional majority to move whatever he liked on the parliamentary floor. And even then, he wasn't able to accomplish the ideals that he had presented to us. He later served as Minister Extraordinaire and Minister of Tobago Affairs in 1996, and even then, he knew, like Scotland, it had to be a step-by-step sort of process, taken in stages. But no matter the size of the accomplishment, we remain cognizant of the fact that a step in the right direction puts us in a better position than having not taken a step at all. So, Madam Speaker, it is in this light that we should not only focus on the comparison between the bill or what was proposed to us in 2016, but we should look more firmly at a comparison between Act Number 40 of 1996, under which we still operate 25 years later, and what is being proposed to us today in this Parliament. And when we are making that comparison, Madam Speaker, we must take the time out and evaluate whether the principles in the 2016 submissions are not included in the current bills, Madam Speaker. And the answer is yes. The basic principles are covered and captured in the current bills, Madam Speaker. The removal of cabinet dominance, the ability to borrow, Madam Speaker, the Dispute Resolution Committee. We've even gone further with the Fiscal Review Commission and made changes as it relates to the Public Service Commission so we could have a better influence and ability to make decisions and influence the decision-making process as it relates to managing our public service and our public service and teaching service issues in Tobago, Madam Speaker. We didn't pull these bills out of a hat. It came out of these years of long consultation in Tobago, and we were asked to go engage the legal experts, go engage the people who have experience from different jurisdictions, to sit with the very United Nations who their members saying, oh, if we don't get what we want, we're going to go to the United Nations. What do you think? The United Nations going to tell you something different? We have spent the last couple of years sitting and discussing, doing our hard work, doing the due diligence, Madam Speaker. And here we are with the redrafted pieces of legislation after after the committee's research and consideration, Madam Speaker. And I offer this contribution, Madam Speaker, not just as a member of both committees of 2018 and 2020. I moved back home, Madam Speaker, in the end of 2008, and I met that conversation of internal self-government taking place at a PNM Tobago Council meeting at Bishop's High School. And after that, I followed the discussion year after year, Madam Speaker. If I missed 3 of those consultations, I missed plenty. I went to every single one. If I missed 3, as I told you, Madam Speaker, I missed plenty. When the committee came to Trinidad, I made my contributions, just like the Tobagonians, hundreds of us. When we were at Signal Hill High School, at one of the final conferences, there were 600 of us there, offering our contributions, Madam Speaker. We analyzed, we agreed to disagree. Madam Speaker, we made our contributions, Madam Speaker. There is no matter in our history that has been deliberated and where there was more consultation than this one, Madam Speaker. So, and then the committee came after that and did more consultations, Madam Speaker. We went to Tobago in 2018 and 2021, but I want to go back to what we submitted in 2016, because when we submitted our position to the Prime Minister and the Cabinet in 2016, we knew very well that it was an expression only of what Tobago wants. We did not find out what Trinidad wants or how Trinidad felt about this or how anybody else felt about this. These are our dreams. These are our aspirations. This is what we see as our destination. We are submitting our position to Parliament. So Madam Speaker, as a committee, we were asked to do the work. We did the clause-by-clause consideration of the act. We did the consultation. We got the feedback, Madam Speaker. And I must say that we have done the work as a committee. Madam Speaker, you hear many people saying that what is before the Parliament today is not what we submitted in 2016. Madam Speaker, and I can't get upset with them because I was once thinking with that mindset too. Because after following the campaign all around Tobago and believing everything and so on, and I still do believe today that this is what we want and this is what our destination should be, Madam Speaker, we have to embrace and we have to acknowledge and we have to be open and honest that what we presented and what we had was based on what we want. We focused only on what we wanted. Many of us having little or no knowledge as to what kind of implications it may have for the unitary state or how it may affect our international best practices and the international law and our relationship with international treaties or international obligations, I think I better say, Madam Speaker. It was when I began working with the committee, doing the reviewing and the studying of the advice of the United Nations, legal luminaries and other experts, I saw a different side of the spectrum. Hence the reason I made it my business to constantly encourage the committee to air and ventilate all the issues, to showcase everything, to educate the public and ensure that everybody have access to the same information and the advice that we are getting now. Because we must remember that this is a process of discussion, of consultation and negotiation. And in those circumstances, especially in the context of preserving the unitary state, we cannot only consider what Tobago wants. There has to be some level of give and take and a mutual appreciation of the issues which are relevant to all parties. There must be a healthy respect for the expert guidance and advice that we, the committee, will ask to seek. There must also be a recognition that because it is about autonomy of Tobago within the unitary state of Trinidad and Tobago, the realities of the international environment and the constraints imposed by international law cannot possibly be ignored. Madam Speaker, the member for Aruka Maloney and the Attorney General would have looked at some of the issues of concern that continue to be aired in the public domain. For instance, there are those who are still saying, we want our EEZ, we want to be defined by maritime boundaries. The legal experts have advised against that. The advice is in the report, which can be found on social media, Madam Speaker, and at the end of the day, we are an archipelagic state. We wouldn't want to lose our maritime jurisdiction, Madam Speaker. And in the spirit of the Tobago House of Assembly Act, we didn't just keep the 6 miles, we have extended based on the advice coming out of QC-BAT. Madam Speaker, lawmaking powers. The Attorney General had already dealt with lawmaking powers, and for the first time, we are being granted exclusive lawmaking powers. I see members of the public on social media speaking about, well, when the UNC had offered us in 2013, they gave us lawmaking powers for the concurrent list. But in that same piece of legislation, that legislation spoke to any law of the Parliament being made before or after could cancel out or make void whatever you make in the Tobago House of Assembly, whilst this piece of legislation before us give us exclusive law-making powers in specific areas, and the Parliament cannot come and arbitrarily make legislation on those issues that are under our watch under Schedule 2. Madam Speaker, another issue that is drawing much public attention is administrative or executive jurisdiction. And what we are doing in Clause 11 of the Constitution Amendment Bill is removing cabinet dominance in over 30 areas, allowing the Tobago House of Assembly to be responsible for the general direction and control of those areas, to create policies, to introduce and implement its own programs, Madam Speaker, and we are going to be having that responsibility. We speak to the ability to borrow. For the first time, Madam Speaker, we are being granted the ability to borrow, and of course, many concerns were raised with needing to get permission from or having to consult with the Minister of Finance. And we have said the Minister of Finance is responsible for the debt profile or the financial welfare of the country, and all other state entities must consult with the Minister of Finance. We felt that it was good to do so based on the advice of the Ministry of Finance. So, Madam Speaker, we are making significant strides and certainly putting us in a better position. We speak to the 6.8% minimum allocation. And for me, one of the best parts of this piece of legislation is the Fiscal Review Committee, which allows us to, which puts us in a position to be a part of the decision-making process and to make a proposal or recommendation to the Parliament that in the consideration of the allocation to Tobago, we don't just stay at 6.8%, but we make the necessary request based on our development agenda for that year. The Fiscal Review Commission also covers revenue sharing, Madam Speaker, and that is very important because the experts out there, the economists out there are telling us, yes, you have marine resources and they're drilling it in Trinidad and they're not giving you none. And that type of thing, Madam Speaker, the Fiscal Review Committee ensures that the resources of this country, from the waters, from wherever in this country, that we get our equal share. And that is why the Fiscal Review Committee is so important in all of this, because they look towards the future, making us economically strong and putting things in place to ensure that we can get our fair share of the national pie. I have a concern with the Fiscal Review Committee. I have already raised it with the leader of my bench that the committee is somewhat cabinet heavy. You have 2 members from cabinet and 1 from the Tobago Island government. We want to make an amendment at the level of the committee where we can increase the Tobago representation to be equal to the cabinet. Now, Madam Speaker, I want to go on now to say that these positions we didn't pull it out of a hat. It wasn't done arbitrarily, Madam Speaker. This was based on consultations with members of the political parties, with the assemblymen, with the civil net in Tobago, with members of the individual members of the Tobago community, and those who would have shown up on the days we went to Tobago to do our consultation. This committee listened. We went back and we made the changes. We took the licks, Madam Speaker. They hung us out to dry on the different talk shows, Madam Speaker. And we listened. We took notes. We went to each and every comment. So, Madam Speaker, to sit here and to hear those opposites say that the process was bogus, we sat there some days for 7 hours going through line by line. I remember the day when we were about to end the meeting and I said, have we received George Leacock's comments as yet? And they had to go find it. And we sat there and we went through those comments line by line and even extend the deadline so that other people could submit comments. So to come here and say that it was not a fair process, everybody who submitted their comments, we sat, we waited, we deliberated, we put up their comments up against the clauses of the bill. We put it up against the advice of the experts, Madam Speaker. We have the different matrix in rotunda, Madam Speaker. So the members are pretending to be blind, Madam Speaker. Oh, I would hate to think that they're just going out there and misleading the public. But Madam Speaker, despite the claims of cunning critics, several amendments have been accepted. From the composition of the DRC that was cabinet heavy, we have changed the composition. Madam Speaker, the responsibility for lawmaking under Schedule 2 and 1, we have expanded that, Madam Speaker, and we have also placed in the Constitution that the president and any government after cannot take back these responsibilities. You can only add, devolving more powers, giving the Tobago House of Assembly or Tobago Island government more and more responsibility, enshrining that in the Constitution, Madam Speaker. I remember the opposition in Tobago would have complained about who determines a case for, what is the case for public emergency to allow the cabinet to step in. We went back, we did the work, we changed it. Madam Speaker, putting Tobagonians to be a part of the quorum in the public service and the teaching service, entrenching rights in the Constitution, removal of the Tobago being a ward that was recommended by Ingrid Melville, Madam Speaker. We went in and we did the work. So the bills before us are a far cry from what you saw on April 30th and May 1st. And there are some people still going around with the old booklet and fooling Tobagonians to believe that no changes were made, Madam Speaker. It is very, very unfortunate. The report, all the advice, all the opinions are online. It's 749 pages long, and we know that some people may not read it, Madam Speaker, but we encourage them to make themselves familiar and read for yourselves, and you recognize that you have been fooled by those who don't want to see this legislation pass, by those who think that if this passes, it's going to be a win for the People's National Movement. Madam Speaker, many of the comments and the people who they have said gave them comments, Madam Speaker, many of them are people with old political grudges, Madam Speaker. Many of them ran against the PNM in some form or format, or was a part of some TOP or some DAC or some NA or some opposition party in the past. Madam Speaker, we welcome their comments and we continue to do our very best to present the best piece of legislation. What comforts me, Madam Speaker, is the more that we educate Tobagonians about what is really in the bill, they are accepting and they are asking, why are others allowing themselves to be fooled? Madam Speaker, at the end of the day, for me, it's not just about what happens today or tomorrow or what kind of vote the opposition take. That is up to them. Madam Speaker, I am more concerned about what happens to Tobago and Tobagonians in the days, weeks, and months to come. Are we going to have another Sandals moment when the naysayers proclaim victory, but have nothing to offer to compensate for the loss of the projected benefits to Tobago, Madam Speaker? I ask this House, especially those opposite who have made up their minds to oppose the bills, if we do not pass this legislation, what are your proposals going forward? How and when do we restart the process? Are we going to have another set of consultations? Are we going to do consultations through the length and breadth of Trinidad, as you proposed in your press conference yesterday? And how sure are you that we will come up with something different after consulting the legal luminaries? Do you think Justice Lucky is going to say something different? QC Bat is going to say something different? Do you think the United Nations is going to change its position? Who determines when we have had just enough consultation? What level of consensus is really enough? When all the people of Tobago agree with each other? Or when all the people of Tobago agree with the people in Trinidad? How many more years, how many more decades, Madam Speaker, before we get to where we are today, Madam Speaker? And how do we guarantee that there isn't going to be another impasse when we get to this point? The most important thing, how much will Tobago have lost in the interim? How are we going to make up or fill the gap resulting from the loss of opportunity? Here we are presented with the chance to make a leap. We stand to remain stagnant for another 25 to 40 years if we do not pass this legislation, Madam Speaker, simply because the opposition has chosen to withhold its support. So it's all or nothing, the whole hog or none, to the detriment of our people and our island's development. What next? What does the opposition have to offer to advance this internal self-government movement? Is the UNC prepared to give Tobago something better? Are we to believe that you'll give us a larger allocation of the budget when you already think 4.03 is too much? Do we believe that you are going to extend to us more opportunities for investment in our development when you think money spent on the ferries and on our airport is too much? What about our freedom to borrow when just in December you felt like giving us the opportunity to borrow $300 million was too much? What about lawmaking powers? Because when you had the chance in 2013, you gave with one hand and took back with the other, Madam Speaker. What are you proposing next? And again, what do you have to offer in the interim? There's a saying that goes, Madam Speaker, some people will sink the ship if they can't be the captain. Then there are those who will burn the city down to rule the ashes. There is a most, end of quote, this is a most fitting and classic case. Just like they told us, Les Sandals got away. When we get in government in the Tobago House of Assembly, we would bring them back. It is in the same vein they're saying, reject this process that is led by the People's National Movement. We would start something new and give you internal self-government. When, Madam Speaker, another 25 years? Must we wait another 40 years? Madam Speaker, this is 14 years of consultation, research, resources, and political goodwill about to go to waste. This committee has done its work. And you would hear even Ramona Ramdial, former UNC member. She was a member of the Joint Select Committee, and she would have worked with us, Madam Speaker. And she is here saying in The Guardian today that this is good work. The committee would have done good work because she remember the work that we would have put in from 2018 all the way up, Madam Speaker. I'm not saying that these bills are perfect. No bill brought before this House is a perfect bill, but it certainly puts us in a more robust and resilient position, Madam Speaker, so that we could strengthen our capacity and build our economy as we advance to the next frontier of our internal self-government. This committee was required to increase Tobago autonomy and authority while preserving the unitary state, and that we did. It was not within our remit to develop a federal system, knowing very well it's not just about what we want, we'll have to consider what Trinidad wants too. And secession was nowhere on our radar, Madam Speaker. So there are those who are trying to piggyback the movement to foist on Tobagonians a talk of secession, and when you call them out, Madam Speaker, they want to hide and run. Madam Speaker, that is the kind of talk and conversation they have been posing to the people of Tobago because they think they do not read. They think we don't know better, Madam Speaker. We are all about preserving the unitary state. If you have another goal, federal, hard and fast federalism right now and secession right now, you need to engage the people of Tobago, go back out there and do those consultations and get the permission of the people of Tobago. But as far as the consultation that I follow from 2009 all the way to now, Madam Speaker, the people of Tobago did not want and still does not want secession. So, Madam Speaker, they are asking us to reject the bills. They're asking us to reject entrenching equal status in our Constitution, granting lawmaking powers, removing cabinet control, 11 nautical miles of executive jurisdiction, the ability to make laws for tourism and other areas of our development, lawmaking power to deal with issues like touting, dealing with waste management for small boat owners, the old cars that are being piled on the side of our roads, Madam Speaker, legislation, policies, and programs to improve the quality of life apply for Tobagonians. They're asking us to reject for the first time having representation in the public service and teaching service so that we can properly run our business in Tobago. We can deal with acting, transfers, allowances, promotions, Madam Speaker. We are being asked to reject a larger allocation, the ability to borrow and to better finance our development so we can develop sporting facilities in the communities, so we can invest in skill development, so we can invest in building a proper private sector and encouraging people to set up their own businesses. Madam Speaker, they are asking us to reject finally being able to participate in revenue sharing. What part of that is retrograde? What part of that is dangerous? What part of that is colonialism? So I ask Tobagonians to disregard their desperation and their foolishness, and as they try to derail the process, Madam Speaker. At the end of the day, none of